What is up guys, and welcome back to another ProGuides Wild Rift video. For today we're going to take a look at yet another edition of Counter the Meta. So listen carefully so you'll be able to counter whatever you're facing in the future. So let's start this off with an Asian region power pick, Darius. So what exactly does this champion do and how does he counter anything? So let's start with what he's best at. He loves trading, he loves extended trades, and if you extend trades with him, well, you best believe you're going to lose. Because there's one little thing that makes Darius quite overbearing in a trade. In case you weren't familiar with it, his passive ability, which is applied with every auto attack and under specific conditions even with spells. And once the stacks reach their maximum amount, he gains bonus AD, and it's not that little. On his highest level he gets up to 226 AD, and once he's full stacked, every auto attack or spell applies all of these stacks on anyone he hits. So if you think about this, anyone who has to get close to him, and might even give him the opportunity to get all those stacks, will be the reason why he's going to be able to kill everyone on your team. As a consequence, everybody needs to understand what to do against this champion, and since we're in a solo queue environment, it's very unlikely to happen that way. So when do we want to pick him? Usually we want to see if we're facing a lot of melee characters on the enemy team, because of obviously the prior stated reasons. Another thing you have to take into consideration is the fact that he dislikes getting crowd controlled. So you don't want to pick him into very agile enemies and into teams that have a lot of crowd control at the same time. However, once you see a lot of melee characters on them, just pick him every single time. There's also a very great benefit that comes by picking this champion. You basically tell your jungle to come over and he'll get a lot of kills for free at all points of the game. And especially if we're talking about scuttle fights, this champion becomes quite the monster very fast. So let's talk about what makes him so strong, in a sense of what items and what runes does he need. The very core items of basically every Darius build is going to be Trinity Force, Deadman's Blade, and most of the time, boots with a Proto Belt enchant. So you might be a bit confused as to why we are putting Proto Belt here, but in this case it's the extra element of surprise. Because in most situations people will not be aware of what you can do with a Proto Belt on Darius. And as the game goes on, it's all about getting them close to you for just a brief moment, because that brief moment will be enough to instantly kill them with the help of your team. And even if you were to receive no help at all, they still have to get away from you. And taken into consideration that you have a massive slow on your second ability, that is going to be quite hard. For runes, he can take Conqueror or Fleet Footwork. Fleet Footwork here because it grants you more movement speed and even more sustain in lane. So in some matchups you won't be able to reach, but with this it's going to be super easy. For summoners, you can make the same argument. First, you can take Flash with a normal barrier setup, completely cookie cutter. However, in some situations, especially into certain teams, you might even take Ghost over barrier. And if you're feeling really fancy, you might even be able to add a Righteous Glory enchant. This might be overkill in very many situations, but at least it's going to look fun. And now let's move on to something that's always fun for all of us. Our question of the day. What is your go-to blind pick in any lane you're playing? Let us know in the comments below. And now it's time for our next pick, Jarvan. So I'm quite sure most of you haven't seen this champion anywhere, because honestly, it's not really played that much, at least outside of the competitive environment, because there it's picked for certain reasons against certain champions. So what could these reasons be? If we think about what Jarvan does, we can quickly come to the conclusion that this champion wants to play against immobile enemies, such as Orianna, Jinx, Ashe, basically anything that doesn't have a dash in its kit and has trouble dealing with such champions. So what is Jarvan actually good at? He can be really annoying in terms of ganks, because the moment he's level 2, he is actually able to gank you. He doesn't even need his combo to hit you, he just needs to get close to you to start auto-attacking you. Because we all know that the red buff slow is really balanced, especially the enhanced one. By the way, it's 30% on the evolved red buff for melee characters. That is quite a bit insane. However, that's not the point here. So even if he just gets close to you and starts auto-attacking you, he'll chip away your HP bar and you'll be slowed, and you might even fall victim to this simple gank, simply for the fact that you're immobile. And he can do that all the time on repeat. And the worst thing is, the moment he's level 5, he can even cage you, similar to Camille. And then all that's left for you to do is die, unless you're Flash. In addition to that, his little flag also offers a little bit of utility. It grants an attack speed buff from 15 to up to 30%. And you should always consider his second ability slow as well. But if there was one thing you have to always be aware of when you play this champion, it's to be very precise with your communication. Because once you go in, you're in, and going out isn't an easy task anymore. So what items do you want to have? Your core build basically consists of Black Cleaver, Sterix Gauge and a Gargoyle enchant. With this, you'll be super tanky and super annoying to kill. For runes, you want Conqueror, quite the obvious choice, simply because it's the best rune in the game. For summoner spells, Flash and Smite since you're going jungle. And now it's time for like a fan favorite. I think all of us are sick of playing against Yasuo. On our team he's always 0 and 10 and on the enemy team he's always 10 and 0. So what can we do to make this stop? Well, you might call me a troll, but what about picking Renekton mid lane into Yasuo? And if you're feeling a bit more fancy and more confident in your own ability to outplay, just pick Riven into him. So the question is, why though? Renekton and Riven both are very infamous for her laning agency. And usually Yasuo is the one that beats up the enemy. However, with these champions, it's quite a different story. And not only that, both of those offer high possibilities of getting ganked. The reason for that is that both champions feature the ability to crowd control you in a reliable fashion. And once you CC'd, it's a very swift fashion in which you're going to die. So what does it do and how do you do it with those champions? Well, basically you just want to keep beating up the Yasuo over and over again. And all of us know the moment a Yasuo starts to feed, it's already a mental victory for you. His team is gonna flame him and he's gonna flame his team back, which means we get some free LP afterwards. However, to make sure that we beat him up all the time, we need a few things to take care of. Number 1 is early vision. We don't want to be caught off guard by the enemy jungle doing what our jungle should be doing to the enemy Yasuo. For the keystone, go Conqueror, and against Yasuo, take Flash and Ignite. You want to kill him, don't forget that. And for the Renekton build, Rush Blader the Ruin King. Yeah, I know it sounds kinda weird, but think about this. Your empowered second ability literally applies it 3 times. You know what's going to happen to the Yasuo, right? He's just gonna explode. And afterwards, after completing this item, you want the Black Cleaver. With that, you'll have the perfect synergy between those 2 items, and the Yasuo is just gonna die over and over. And for Riven, well, you'll always go Black Cleaver into Death's Dance. It's like a law, but an unwritten one. The next pick is a champion that is supposed to mess with all other enchanters. Because there's one thing this enchanter does that the others don't do. The ability to heal before gaining access to your ultimate ability. So whereas other pesky enchanters use their shields to annoy you, you'll just heal up, which opens up a way different approach to trading in lane. So what does the champion Nami do? It can do multiple things. It usually guarantees you agency in lane, because you're the one beating up the enemy, simply for the fact that you have a lot of healing and extra damage. But what else can you do? Normally a support, at least an enchanter, can't really do much when it comes to engaging. However, Nami can, and that's simply for her wave. And that's honestly not all there is to it. She can even disengage with it and bubble people, and she can even combine both of them together, which locks the people in place for quite a long time, which should be enough time for your AD carry to mess them up, unless he's going to run away as you're used to. So what are the do's and don'ts in lane? Number 1, you want to abuse the fact that the enemy can only shield, so you can heal up after a trade. However, you don't want to run into a full wave of minions because these little things hurt more than champions do, at least in the early game. Therefore, to avoid their wrath, rather go for quick trades and back off afterwards. To put emphasis on those trades, we want to take Ahri as our keystone. It will simply add more damage to what we're already doing. And if you want the most sustain in lane, always cast your second ability either on your ally first or on yourself first. Therefore, you'll guarantee 2 bounces that will heal, which will be especially important once we get to the items. But now let's talk about the summoner spells first. Usually, you'll go flash and heal, but in some circumstances, for example if you're facing a Diana, you might as well take exhaust. Even if the Diana is in another lane, take the exhaust, because once she jumps in, you'll just exhaust her and her damage will be completely irrelevant. Now let's move on to the items. Usually, most of Nami's can just go Ardent Censer into Staff of Flowing Water, but what happens afterwards? If you're facing a lot of AP damage, just go Athene's Unholy Grail. If you get familiar with how to use it, you can literally double the healing of your second ability. So you should take a quick look at how this item actually functions. So take Nami into the Rift and let us know how it went. And last but not least, we got a special for the mid lane. Do you happen to be tired of playing against champions that just don't interact with you? For example, a Ziggs sitting at his tower relaxing, doing absolutely nothing but throwing bombs into the wave? Then what about picking a champion that just leaves lane after pushing? And for that specific purpose, I present you Ahri. Due to the recent changes to Luden's Echo, this item has become borderline broken, and it was one of her core items anyway. With the bonus to the ability haste, she'll be more obnoxious than ever, because what makes an Ahri so strong? Well, it's her mobility. Whenever you're overextended just in the slightest, she'll catch up to you, charm you, and you will die. And especially if the enemy jungle is familiar with this, it's going to be happening a lot of times. So what does the champion do in lane? Well, basically it's going to permanently push the wave, and by the priority gained by pushing, she wants to rotate to other places on the map. So whenever you're facing an Ahri, make sure to leave enough vision for your team to know where she's going, because once you don't know what she's doing, you will most likely be in pain because your team is gonna flame you after they die to an Ahri, and then you're going to die to her, and you know how the story continues. On the flip side, as an Ahri you always want to be aware of where the wards are. Think about it creatively and avoid the mostly warded spots. Keep in mind you can use your ultimate to go through walls and therefore avoid most of it. So get creative when you go for a gank. To make sure you have enough damage to kill somebody, you want to take Electrocute, you're a burst mage. In addition to that, you want Ignite to your flash. More damage, more happy. And for items, I've already told you, Luden's Echo, but now into a Rabadon Staff Cap and into a Proto Belt. So why exactly Proto Belt? You can combo your ultimate ability with the Proto Belt to gain even more distance and catch somebody off guard. You can also use it just to bait an enemy's summoner spell, because they'll simply mistake it for your ultimate. And once you're close enough and you use the Proto Belt, they're forced to do so, because if they don't, they risk dying anyway. And another little tip, whenever you're going for a rotation, you don't have to complete that rotation. You can also just wait in a brush and see if the enemy follows you. If he does so, just wait for him, charm him, and kill him. Oh, and since you're already in the river, make sure to place down Deep Vision. It never hurts to have those boards. And with that, we've wrapped up today's video. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.